I'm a certain personality. I might not like a management style that is different to mine. So it would be interesting to know how many people would choose jobs where they know that they're going into or being managed by someone that is really different to them. But that does bring us to your business and Neuroframe, and I've done the assessment today, and we're going to go through my results.
Welcome to the Bedsides and Boardrooms podcast. We speak about the intersection between business and medicine. Today we're going to be speaking about the science of personality with Maria Adrenova. Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Nathan, for having me here.
Thank you for joining. Just so that our listeners can understand, can you just give us a bit of background on yourself?
The background is, I would say, very much unusual. Because my profile combines working at high-level consultancies, including legal consultancy. Then I was a big corporate, and two of my engines that I was running were over 100,000 people. Imagine the crowd, like a fair city. And later on, I moved to venture investment. And finally, I ended up very much startup founder, so much engaged in what I'm doing. Still, I keep my investments, my portfolio, but at this point, I'm full-time into cutting-edge tech in neuroscience.
And it's that neuroscience that we're going to get into shortly. And we're going to speak about your company, Neuroframe, and the assessment tool that you've created, which we are going to see the results of my assessment by the end of this episode. So for all the listeners waiting to hear what kind of personality I have, we're going to see the results of that towards the end. But before we get into that, you've had a career that has spanned multiple types of roles as a consultant, investment banking, and now as an entrepreneur. What drove you towards starting your own business?
I have always been into change, and some people say that my personality is a definition of change for them. I started my career in an international law firm, a very good one, with all that luxurious stuff from the movies you could imagine, including 24 hours working day, including fresh juice and crazy client parties. And it was before the crisis of 2008. I am that old, I would say. And I was seeing the corporate culture before all those waves of crisis actually happened. And later on, I figured out, and it happened quite soon, that corporate life is not satisfying for me. I was having everything a decent human could dream of, especially in Moscow in 2008, 2009. And still, I was feeling that something was missing. And I was not the only one. People around me were constantly complaining as well, including the upper positions. At the same time, I was seeing those amazing leaders, especially the top-notch professionals from international consultancies, and I was lucky to get engaged into big deals, into high-profile negotiations. And I was thinking of, wow, that guy really shines. What are the components of his success or her success? What are the components of that godly spark that I can see that makes this very human so different? So I started asking myself those questions very early, also because I have always been curious. And I will tell a bit later, it is an element of my personality. Later on, I moved to big corporate because I wanted to see how the system works. Because as a small business, I was selling to big corporates as well. And I was asking myself questions of why does it have to take so long to go through all those negotiations? Why the sales cycle takes months when it is obvious those guys want my service? Just let's agree and make contract, pay money and run. Yet you need to do all those kinds of corporate dance for months and months and months, and it is exhausting for both sides, for the company and for my people. We created a micro-learning course that would work with a person for not more than 5 minutes a day, because, well, people are busy. You can't take too much time and attention. But this instrument was so bright, so happy, so different, that at some point people were messaging me, "Hey Maria, can I have tomorrow's chapter today? I want it now." And I was like, 5 minutes for today. So I moved to the United Arab Emirates. And I also took my expertise and I kept the connections with neuroscientists and professionals that were helping me build those courses and instruments. And this is how Neuroframe appeared. It is actually a combination of cutting-edge neuroscience, 20 years of research of our scientists on, I would say, unique projects that usually are not approachable on the street. They are accessible to the very much chosen and trusted ones. He was researching the behaviors of high-profile decision makers in the conditions that would never happen again. In the assessment centers under the projects that were very much detailed and aimed at sometimes extreme conditions, at looking at people behavior under stress, under change, under sometimes hectic environments. And my experience as the owner of the process, because when I would work with teams, especially with all those top managers, first thing I would do for the project is to request analytics, the data about those people, like what is the material. And usually I would have 300, 400 pages about each individual, exposing everything about them. And still, all those folders seem to be so useless because I wanted to change the behavior. How does this story of his, let's say, vacations, or story of his opinions, or I would say conclusions of his therapists help me? I wanted to structure the future. I wanted to predict his behavior. Every time I would enter the room and I would understand, like 5 minutes, I see the person, I understand who I'm dealing with. So all those folders that I was receiving were first burdensome, too much time to review, second useless, because they were not related to work. They were not helping me to predict the behavior. And why do we run assessments at work? Why do we ask questions? Not out of empty curiosity. We want to predict the future. We want to predict the behavior. We want to create a human architecture for this would-be company. We want to understand that we have the right people to do the right job and to return the investors' money. By the way, talking about investors, that's ridiculous that until now, most venture funds, how do they select the founders to put the money in? Like, oh, well, I ask my network, I ask the people I know if they know this fella and if this fella knows those people. That's it. And imagine if they invest in the startup and then the startup unluckily loses the money and the investors come to the fund and say, hey, a write-off again. How would you explain? And they would like, I asked everyone I know and they said this fella was fine. Not exactly the appropriate standard of duty of care, and not something you would call a properly implemented fiduciary duty. And well, my background is M&A, so I know what I was talking about. I was selling huge companies to big vehicles, big investment vehicles. And also, again, you would spend months and months and months looking at company paper. How much time would a regular buyer spend on the team? Oh, well, probably they would have a dinner with the CEO and probably they would listen to 15 minutes presentation by the CFO. That's it. And the main element of, crucial element of any business is people. So, moving back to the story, in 2022, I got into a number of investments. I started working as a small venture fund in the name of myself and the people that were trusting me. We were operating like a small family fund as well. We distributed some funds, and at the same time, I wanted something to do because I'm kind of restless. I want to be busy. And not only that I want to be busy, I want to do some cutting-edge projects that are actually looking outside the existing level of science, that would do something else, something more, something bigger. And it is an element of my genetics, and we will talk about it later, but our capacity, our personality traits, our cognitive abilities are very much rooted back in our genetics. They are connected to our ancestors to a certain extent. Of course, not 100%, but still the connection is there. And my ancestor, exactly 100 years ago, invented the television in the United States. His name is Vladimir Zworykin. And he shifted to medical industry and he invented a lot of things for medtech, for healthcare. Still, he's known for television. I don't know how people are going to use Neuroframe, hopefully for the better, but well, it is the way it is. We still have to create that advancement. We still have to follow that path because the progress is unavoidable. You're either part of it or you are going to be left out. That's at least my vision.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think something interesting that you said about negativity and positivity and how you're merging different personalities within an organization. And I've always thought, I've worked in a few organizations before and I've seen that how negativity can become like a sickness within an organization, and these kind of personality clashes that we have can become more and more and more intense over time. And you read about some organizations that there's this amazing founder and they just shoot the lights out and everyone believes them and everyone just follows that person and that person's like the most amazing thing, and that person just breeds positivity with them as they go. And then you hear stories of other huge organizations that have this kind of negativity that just seeps into everything that it does. And I think that is partly what you're trying to get right, is getting all these personalities right and understanding what everyone's personality is from the beginning, and then you kind of build on from that. So there must be some struggles that you've had going, corporate, where you're spending other people's money to creating your own businesses. Tell me, what are the struggles that you've had starting your own business?
Well, every position has its pros and cons. And I've been at the board level for several years, board of directors for very large enterprises, including Russia's biggest airline. And there are benefits of being a part of a huge system that, well, you feel protected and you have the budget, and also you have a big mission. You have that feeling of scale, that what you do at your level really creates impact on the whole company. Like you say at the board meeting that You don't want this to happen ever again in any case with any client. And later on, you see it implemented. You can see that the lives of millions of customers are being improved because you said something at that board meeting, which is just incredible. At the same time, you have to play this corporate game. You have to agree with the people. Sometimes you have to take difficult decisions that, again, have this huge impact over people's lives. And not always that it depends on you. You are part of the system. And sometimes you become a part of a decision that is not controlled by you, but you can be a part of this decision. So there are different elements to that. And now I'm running a tech enterprise, a small tech enterprise, connected with commercialization, that is organizing sales and wide adoption for cutting-edge innovation. And it is so special. At the one hand, it is super exciting because you're building something sparkling, something new, something life-changing, and you're speaking to smartest people on this planet, and you are bringing something that is really going to create an impact. And also, you are doing so many things for the first time. Also, that you have all those new instruments in your hands. Google is launching new products like every month, and you have to learn how to use them. Also, all those service providers are issuing new versions with AI integrated, and I have probably 150 presentations now in each of those. And well, I don't know how many years I would spend to create the same database if I was doing it with a team of analysts. So that's exciting. On the other hand, I've never worked so hard in my life. When you have all those instruments at your fingertips, you become restless. You want to do more, you want to invent more, you want to expand. At some point, you don't notice how exhausted you might get. And also, when I was creating Neuroframe as a tool to understand every personality in front of you, imagine the situation before was you are surrounded by vague, unpredictable human beings. And after Neuroframe, you can understand every person that works for you. And you can understand that person in terms of numbers that are judgment-free, that are safe to use, because we don't dig deep into something we don't want for our performance. And that is so much clear and precise. And I thought, well, if I offer this instrument to the market would say, yes, 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 thank you, Maria, we're going to buy from you. Exactly. And that's a tunnel vision, of a creator of an instrument. You become too much into it because you live the story, because I was desperately in need of such instrument when I was doing my projects. And I thought, well, if I was missing this tool, everyone else is missing this tool as well, because they are looking for solutions. They want to become more efficient. They want to become happier. They want to make other people happier. And listen, McKinsey is creating their Brain Institute within their Health Institute unit to look exactly into the issue of human capital, brain capital, in economy, or brain capital as the most important element of economics. And I was like, bravo. That's an extremely smart move. And I started writing to those people, hey, I have a solution. Because if you're talking about brain economy, probably you want to make it measurable, right? Right? Not that fast. Because you understand that you have the science, you have the research, you have validation, you have everything. Still, you need to translate this complicated concept to so many different players. And at some point, we have bad habits, like too many companies are used to instruments that have less than zero validation, or that are proved to be damaging by modern neuroscience. Let's say every instrument that puts labels on humans, or if that person is INTJ according to Myers-Briggs, then always this person is going to react that particular way. Now, modern neuroscience says each and every one is a unique combination of the so-called GMA, general mental ability, that is the qualities of our intellect, and not only the qualities that are not functioning, but the ones that are helping us do the different kinds of jobs. Because at work, probably we are not interested in a person with skyrocketing IQ, but without ability to produce results. We all know those extremely smart people that remain idle all the time.
Or very smart people that can't deal with anyone else. They just can't, they don't have the EQ in order to bring out results in other people.
Exactly. Or they can't do the appropriate PR. That's the reason why even the brightest scientists, they require promoters. When I was studying in Harvard, I was learning the long chain of different kinds of agents that are required to put the technology into practice or to commercialize the technology. And it is not that easy. And you need all those kinds of players. And let me tell you the secret, each kind of player probably has people that are working for this agent. And this agent needs to generate revenue to feed all those people. So who is going to pay the bill? It is the most favorite question of recent economy. So it is not easy to put the tech to the market. And also, when you work in a company, you think that, well, you create a tool, you would buy it yourself, everyone else would buy it. No, you need to structure the sales. You need to understand who the right people are. You need to not only provide the results of assessments, you need to tell different kinds of players what to do with your results. Sometimes to take decisions and to carry responsibility for those decisions, because every tool that you offer to the market is going to probably save money or save effort or save time. And you need to show the way to those results, and not only to the end user, that is probably the shareholder that wants the company to generate revenue. You need to get in the loop all those different people that are standing in line and that you need to convince. Or like, okay, Dell wants to buy this, or Microsoft wants to reach that goal. There is no such thing as Microsoft. There are different people that operate at different levels.
Yeah.
There are maybe strategic goals. There are probably units that are aligned with some goals if the company is working properly. But still, there are different people with different profiles again, and you need to understand them for that sale to happen. And also, when you're running a tech enterprise, it is, I would say, quite an expensive venture. And before you make the first sale, you need to perfect your technology, you need to perfect your marketing. All of that, well, of course, needs to be financed. Exactly. Obviously, capital. That is the companies that can bootstrap, that can create results without extra capital, and that are not inflating their valuation. Lucky for us, from day one, we're having our first customers. And at this point, we're living on our customers' money, mainly. That's a nice situation. In most cases, what I see is that companies that are offering extreme innovation and that are solving big problems still remain without revenue, still remain without investment, and that's a very sad situation. But it's the way the market operates right now.
I think the challenges that you've experienced, it's amazing how, you could pick out any company and especially small startup and in the tech space, then they have similar types of issues. Like through my personal journey, I came up with this idea, and I just thought that the idea would kind of speak for itself, that it was so new and so, dare I say, innovative, that people would just be like, oh, that's great. But when you actually go to the market, you realize that there's legacy systems, there's people that have done things for certain ways for hundreds of maybe hours or days and years. And there's people that don't necessarily want to change and adopt something that is, completely new. And that was a real challenge for me, because you have to really convince those first few people that, okay, not only am I selling you this product, but actually I'm showing you a vision of what's going to come in the future. And what are the products of the future going to be? What are the requirements, especially in the medical space? What are the requirements from the regulators in the future going to be? And how does this right now help you to achieve that? So I think it's amazing how these challenges are there regardless of the type of company that you have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have all the kinds of McKinsey, KPMG, Deloitte, Mercer, whatsoever reports saying that 80% of the people attend their offices every day without having a thought of a company's interests. They are not engaged in what is going on. They come to their office to fall asleep. Imagine. And the companies are still paying salaries to those people. And imagine what would happen on the market if each and every person could be explored and offered something exciting, inspiring. Because if you ask those people that are not engaged into companies' affairs, are they happy about it? They would say, no. We are humans, we want to be useful. Most of the humans, they feel alive when someone needs them. When someone says, hey, you're valuable, you can contribute, you can be a part of a big story. And it is exciting to work for a big company. And the managers are just not selling this story to the people. Or those people, they are not having enough attention whatsoever. And the calculations are that $25 trillion, imagine this huge number, $25 trillion is the loss of the worldwide economy annually because of lack of attention to mental health issues at work. And when people are not engaged, when they don't get enough attention, or if they get not the type of attention they would need, it is one of the reasons for depression, for PTSD, for all kinds of trouble that are causing this damage, not only to this very organization, but to the economy in general. Because those people are losing their jobs, they are not generating extra revenue, they are not behaving in an open and happy manner.
I think it's amazing how no matter what job people are interviewing for, we have the same criteria. We have an interview, which to me is just, it's crazy. If you are a mechanic or you're a neuroscientist or you work on IT, you're all getting the same process to get hired, which is an interview. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, well, yeah. There is a selection of instruments that some companies are using, but still most of those instruments are either adding the observer effect, as you mentioned about the interviews, that is human perception, human judgment, and there are multiple pieces of research that prove the interviewers hire their mirrors. That is, people that somehow connect with the interviewer. And questionnaires, well, people know how to play that game, especially if we're talking about highly paid individuals. They, by the nature of the question, already know how to answer. Or if we're looking at CVs, that's the past. And okay, you have J&J or whatsoever big name in your CV, but CV is not telling the full story about your performance.
Yeah.
And maybe a year ago, you were forcing yourself, you were resilient, you were in one kind of mood, and probably you were having friends in that organization. We don't have the full story. But still you have a way to go. You have your future in a new company. CV helps, of course. But also it is not a fully reliable source. And especially when we're talking about very important positions in the company. You need to have multiple sources before you make this decision, because bad hires, they are expensive. They cost you in learning, they cost you frustration, they cost you in
Financially,
recruitment whatsoever. Yeah. That's a huge amount of things that are going wrong when you hire the wrong personality. So
I would want to know the personality of the manager that's hiring me, because that's something. We're thinking of it the other way, like I want to hire someone that will come into my company and I know their personality. But if I'm a certain personality, I might not like a management style that is different to mine. So it would be interesting to know how many people would choose jobs where they know that they're going into or being managed by someone that is really different to them. But that does bring us to your business and Neuroframe, and I've done the assessment today, and we're going to go through my results.